Welcome to your daily dose of theological German. We're working our way through the article entitled Where Does God Dwell? Looking at 1 Kings 8 and all about the temple. This sentence is really actually quite straightforward, but I'll just highlight a couple of things about stuff that's pretty basic, but is good to be reminded of, and then I want to give us a warning about using Google Translate, because this sentence provides an excellent example of why you got to work through this the hard way. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. From the royal period, here you have a compound word. This is time or period, Zeit, and König, king, but you'll just say royal. From the royal period in the 10th century until, and that's how you know this von should be from and not of, because von, bis, from, until. In the post-exilic, again, another compound here, nach meaning after usually or something like that. So post-exilic Persian period, another compound. In the 3rd century BC. Then you have your verb, reichen, which means something like spread or extend, run through, something like that. And then you have an adverb, vermutlich, which means something like probably or perhaps. And then finally, at the very end of the sentence, you get your subject. Why is it at the end of the sentence? Well, because you started with a long prepositional phrase, and then the verb in German always wants to come in second position, and so that's why you see the verb here. That's technically second position because it comes after the first element, which is a lengthy prepositional phrase. But then adverbs, of course, need to be with the verb, and so that comes next immediately. And so then your subject just gets pushed off to the very end, and it just happens that it's the end of the sentence. If there were more subordinate clauses or something, then those would continue on. In any case, we got to put this into some kind of better word order in order to make sense of it in English. So let's just go ahead and take it from the top and start with the subject. So it's text history, it being from yesterday's translation. It is the composite text of 1 Kings 8. Okay, that's the passage in question. So it's text history, probably traces through or extends or runs from the royal period in the 10th century until the post-exilic period in the 3rd century BC. So it's actually a fairly straightforward sentence. But what's interesting is if you look at what happens when you put a sentence like this into Google Translate, you'll see why you should never do that. So let's go ahead and look at what Google Translate does with this sentence. It gets the first part of it okay, right? You have here from the royal period in the 10th century, the post-exilic Persian period in the 3rd century BC. Perfect. Excellent. Then somehow it suddenly gets his text history is probably enough. And what's basically happened here is that it's taken this word up here, reicht, to not be a verb, but in fact to be an adjective. And even then, you won't find an adjective like that in a dictionary, but you will find reichtum, which means something like wealth or abundance or sufficiency. And so it's probably enough, I guess, is how it got there. But you can see that that's just like indecipherable. And if you don't know what's going on, obviously Google's not going to help you. So you really got to work through these things the hard way. And so I just like to remind everybody every once in a while not to get tripped up by trying to take shortcuts in translating your German. Just look these things up in the dictionary. Pay attention to the syntax. It should have been immediately obvious that that was a verb. And then you should be able to steer yourself clear of any of these kind of mistakes. So pretty straightforward sentence, but Google couldn't handle it.